Hey, what's up, world? Welcome to Snack Size, the podcast that will drag you into your most fabulous life. I'm your host, Lala Luzious, also known as the snack of the Twin Cities. I decided for myself that I can be whatever I want to be, so I decided to be a drag queen. And if I can live my dreams, you can too. The time has come to believe in yourself enough to turn your ideas into more than mere words. And no matter what you are doing in life or where you want to go, I want to help you get there fabulously. Our 10 minutes starts now. Hey snacks, welcome back to Snack Size. Today's episode is very special to me because we are featuring the winner of my casting call, which asked for people to send me their stories and I would pick one person to come on here and share it with you all. Our guest today is Denzel Belin, an actor, improviser, writer, and director currently based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He currently writes and performs with the Brave New Workshop as a member of their main stage team and for Minnesota Tonight. Denzel has worked with many theaters, including Uprising Theater Company, Phoenix Theater, Freshwater Theater, and Minnesota Fringe. He is also one half of Brother Brother, an improv duo that performs often at Huge Theater here in Minneapolis and has played festivals in the Minneapolis area as well as Boston, Massachusetts. It is my honor to welcome Denzel to Snack Size. Let's give him a call. Hi, Denzel. Welcome to Snack Size.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being on here with me today. Denzel won our casting call contest in which I was looking for anyone who is an artist or a creative person to tell their story. And I knew from the moment I got your email that you were definitely the winner of the casting call. For the listeners, the email subject says, "Laughing at the bullshit, how finding satirical sketch comedy helped me process the world." So I am very excited to hear about how your life as a comedian has helped you live a happy and fulfilled life. I know that this is a really hard time for creative people. So how are you holding up during this time?
As of today that we are recording this, I am doing pretty good, I have to say, all things considered. As a performing artist, there have been lately a lot of really big announcements, particularly the Guthrie Theater, which is our big regional theater, just announced that they are not doing any shows until March of 2021.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I know a lot of theaters are influenced and take note of what the Guthrie is doing. So we could find ourselves in this place where smaller theaters are maybe taking a year or more off to sort of recoup and get back together in order to do what they love to do. I don't know where my particular theater that I work at, the Brave New Workshop's landing. Fortunately, we are in a position where we are creating content and I'm still getting somewhat of a paycheck, but we all know that that's only for a limited amount of time, and we're just happy to do the work.
I think you had told me that the Brave New Workshop is the oldest improv workshop in the United States.
Technically, the longest running satirical comedy theater in North America.
Wow. So this content that you're creating now online, where can we find it?
A lot of it is through the Brave New Workshop. I've also done some TikTok for another organization called Take Action Minnesota. I also am going to do a really fun playwriting project with some students through the Pillsbury House. But that'll be later.
That sounds like you've had some really exciting projects during this quarantine. So would you say that you've been able to keep yourself inspired?
I wouldn't say as sort of consistently and fervently as I have been in the past, but I've been able to write some things. I've been able to take care of myself artistically. And honestly, it really helps my soul knowing that I'm getting paid for it. So often as artists, we are pushing our own craft on our own time, spending our own money, always netting a negative amount. It's sometimes hard to step back and be like, oh, I could be writing that next great American play, but that's going to be my time, my effort, and I won't see any finance until it sells, if it sells.
So tell me a little bit about how you started in comedy.
Yeah, so when I went to college at St. Olaf College, I didn't really know anyone. I had went sort of on this gut instinct, and I had met someone who I was really, kicking it off with, having a good friendship. And I was like, what are you up to tonight? And she was like, I'm going to go to check out this improv practice. She explained it as most people typically do. It's very, whose line is it anyways? And I was like, well, I know stage. Let me go check this out. So I went there and I was really fascinated by this idea of getting the chance to perform. You didn't need to memorize any lines. That was so nice because that's so time consuming. So I was like, why not? I'll give it a try. And, I'll be honest, for this first year and a half, 2 years, I wasn't particularly good, but no one should be or really is when they first start out. But I never think it's a bad thing that when you first try something, if you're not brilliant at it, I think it's okay. So I kept doing that all 4 years of my time at St. Olaf. So I decided to stay in Minnesota. Through my improv work, I was able to meet a lot of different people. And so there was one day where I got a message from a friend who was currently in a show at the Brave New Workshop. And he was like, hey, I need to ask if you are busy and are looking for like something extra and fun to do. And I was like, sure, I can always use a little bit of extra cash. And I went into this meeting and I'll be honest, I thought I was there because I was like, maybe it's like a serving job, maybe I could run front of house, something like that. And I quickly realized that he was asking me to understudy for the show. And I did not know that. And that excited me. That was such an opportunity. And of course, I said, yes, I'm going to understudy for the Brave New Workshop Comedy Theater, this sketch comedy thing. And then I went home and I was like, what exactly is sketch comedy? But I quickly realized I needed to take a class in what sketch comedy was, particularly the writing. Even though I wasn't doing writing, I wanted to get into the world. So I took my first class at Strike Theater for sketch comedy writing, and everyone's going around talking about why they're taking the class. A lot of people are like, I'm a teacher and I'm looking for something different. And then there's me. I'm about to understudy at the Brave New Workshop, and I figured I should understand what sketch comedy is. And everyone there was like, what? I was temping at the time at a division of a big bank doing a small thing for them, and it just wasn't what I had spent 4 years studying theater to do.
Exactly, yeah.
So I took the leap and I left that relatively well-paying job to go and, take a little bit of a pay cut and pursue art all on the fly.
Making the decision to kind of just jump into what you love, was that a scary decision to make?
Absolutely. It was truly terrifying, but I feel like it's terrifying the way that like bungee jumping is terrifying. Like, that there's gonna be a thrill. And at a certain point, you can only experience that thrill once you step off. But I never thought I would make a substantial amount of my income with me being on the stage performing.
What is your creative process when it comes to writing a sketch?
My creative process is I have to be authentically me as I'm writing. When I first started writing, I think I was writing towards what I really thought was funny. And then I had to learn like the skills behind it. What makes a good sketch piece? So I had to learn like jokes. I had to learn how to punch up a script. I had to learn how to give notes to other scripts. I just need to learn these technical things that I didn't have. But now that I feel stronger in those skills, I can sort of return to that base thing and be like, I like this idea. This is me.
When we talked before the show, you had mentioned that you had to draw a line between you and your art. What are the challenges you face in regards to that, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, particularly with sketch comedy, the way we write it at the Brave New Workshop. So often we write stuff like for ourselves. However, that also blurs everything. And if you write yourself into like the funny comedic role, and then someone at the table's like, I didn't find this particularly funny, where the jokes were the jokes, it almost feels like you're not funny. You're missing out on something. And I had a hard time distinguishing this new thing, this new form, this writing. If they hate that, they must hate my style of humor. And then the more conversations I had, the more I learned about my art. And really, I would say my artistic director, Caleb McEwen, he's like, I keep hiring you because I see what you bring to the table. And I eventually just had to trust that and be like, I wouldn't be able to do show after show after show if there wasn't something in me that was working. Why should I be harder on myself than the person who has other options?
Something that people struggle with, especially creative people, is that we have it in our minds that sometimes we don't deserve the opportunities that we're getting. And while there is definitely times in life where you will have to work really, really hard for what you want, there's also the battle of accepting the fact that this is my time and I am where I'm supposed to be. Because in our minds, sometimes we don't know how to handle that, especially as artists when you struggle for so long. When a break comes, you don't even know what to do because all you know is the struggle, right? So accepting those people in your life and listening to them and allowing them to encourage you is super important for following your dreams.
Yeah, and I really like what you mentioned there because I feel like there have been so many times where I've had such a hard go at certain things that the comfort of being fine or being good or great is so unfamiliar that that's what becomes the uncomfortable thing. So to be put in a situation where primarily what I did was write and perform after sort of having those experiences was like, why am I here to a certain degree? And especially being a Black queer man, I was like, I'm the diversity. If you look at me, you know that I'm diverse, quote unquote. And so, I had those nagging thoughts in my head, and it just really was me undercutting all the work I had been doing. So I could write something really amazing, I can make people laugh, but there's still part of my head that's like, well, you're here because you're the Black kid, which is, again, nothing that I got from themselves, right? This is all me projecting onto them based off of life, really, and me having to be so aware of my race, of my sexuality so early, and understanding what that means for the way that people often perceive me. I put that and those guards that I had onto my work, which in fact hindered my ability to grow.
It's very interesting that you brought that up because one of the things I struggled with when I found success here was actually pressure from the Black queer community about my success. When I first moved here, I was lucky enough to be named the host of a very big show. And a lot of the Black queer community came to me and they said, well, they've never picked a Black person for that. I can't believe that they picked you because they've never had a Black host before. And while there's an important moment for that, when a person of color sort of, I guess, finds success in anything, it's important. At the same time, I think one of the biggest pressures for me was, did they only pick me for that reason? And then all your talent and all your hard work slowly goes out the window because you only become focused on, is that the only reason I'm here? And that never feels good. So I'm glad that you found a way to work through that and listen to the people around you and realize that it's your talent and what you have to offer just as a person is what's propelling you forward in your field.
So often within our communities, it becomes this, we're all fighting for this one spot sort of idea that, there can only be one Black person on the stage. They can only have, one Black girl in the drag show. But what I've been doing personally in order to combat that is I've been uplifting everyone, right? I take my success, I take my joys, I take where I have found my heights in the community, particularly in improv. And I've been like, you know what? But I really like that idea. And if you need help executing it, I'm more than willing to talk to you about it. And rather than being like, it is hard to get a show up, because the reality is it is hard to get a show up. But why lead with that? Why be discouraging rather than being like, here's the reality of it, but someone's got to do it, so why not you?
Talking about just you as Denzel, what is something that people seem to misunderstand about you?
Particularly this last week in being a Black male in America has been hard.
Okay. Very hard.
I had a moment when the stuff about the young man who was shot while jogging. One of the solaces I've been having throughout quarantine have been I've taken 2 daily walks. And I just had a moment where I'm like, I what can I do now? And I was like shaken to my core about, and like we could have conversations about the mask thing and how like so many communities, like the Asian communities and the Black communities are like, do I wear, like, I understand the health benefit of wearing this mask, but also I could be judged and or shot for wearing this mask. And who cares how healthy I am if I'm dead? I can't wear a bandana across my face.
Exactly.
I just can't. And when I see people doing it, part of me is like, thank God you're white.
It has been very interesting for me to watch people who are not of color talk about, oh, my rights are being taken away. Oh, I can't believe that we can't do this. And just with all the restrictions that have come from being in this lockdown, how infringing it feels to them. And I think that is how I live my life. That is how I wake up every day, and I have to make choices that have nothing to do with what I may want to do or what I feel I should be able to do. And I have to make choices for my day-to-day life, like whether or not I'm going to walk or what I'm going to wear if I go out for a walk, based on ultimately the fear that I could die for making a simple wrong choice that day. And they have the comfort of knowing that this time is temporary. They have the comfort of knowing that at some point, lockdown will end and things will go back to normal. This is normal for us. And I almost thought, like when I heard about what happened to that poor man, that people would be more understanding right now. And it just shocks me that at the same time, nothing's changed.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, while it is shocking, there's a part of us that's like so not surprised.
Exactly.
That is like the sadder thing, where I would almost be more shocked if this did really resonate and change things. I'm 27, and I'm already like sort of jaded about that sort of progress happening quickly.
This is a really special conversation because we are two Black queer men. So for other Black queer community people that may be listening, what would your advice be for getting through the challenges that we just talked about? I'll answer when you're done.
Yeah, I would say communication. Communication's been one of those things that I have found so much success in as far as like getting career and everything, but also just within yourself and making sure that you're having those conversations with yourself. And in my adult life, more and more am I coming to understand that there have been so many things that I have just sort of kept in me because I need to present in a certain way. And just being able to talk to anyone about it, a friend, a therapist, whoever has the emotional energy, a hotline, just that pressure to be silenced is what is harming us and is hurting us so deeply. And I feel for every Black queer person because I know those pressures, and I know that sometimes you can't because you don't have the energy. It's not a safe space, all those different things. But if you can and you can work towards it, it can save your life.
For me, I think that it would be to have hope. I feel like every time our community is knocked down, it is really, really, really disheartening. But in my 31 years of life, I've also seen a lot of things change. So I always try to at least have a pinky wrapped around the hope that it will be different in the future. Even my experience as a drag queen, when I first started drag, it was not the thing to do. I was still getting beat up for going out to, my local bar dressed as a woman. But now drag is really penetrating mainstream culture. So something that I never thought would change did. And I hope and pray all the time that this particular issue with the Black community and the Black queer community will also change one day.
Yeah, and it just reminded me that like we are entitled to joy. I think so much of our narrative is so laced in struggle and working hard and, defying the odds. But even to see a celebrity like Lil Nas X tweet, and you can tell that, he's just being himself and he's smiling and having a good time and just being a person. Like, we are entitled to that as well.
Or even just feel free to to the gas station, to the grocery store, day-to-day things that you have to do that you sometimes feel this ominous threat about, and nobody can ever really live that way. That's why, in addition to the fact that we both work hard and we're very talented, people will not know the mental struggle and the mental stamina you have to even work through those pressures. Then you have to be talented. Then you have to go for what you want for. So it's the fact that you and I are making it. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing that we get to sit here and say that, and not many other people do. But I hope the one thing that this podcast does is give them the inspiration and the hope to keep going, because it can happen. You just have to work for it and really, really push through all those external factors. Well, thank you so much, Denzel, for coming on Snack Size. It has been an honor to do this episode with you. I know that people have a lot to take away. I also have a lot to take away myself from it. So thank you so much for sharing.
This was so wonderful, and truly, it feels just as special to me as it does to you.
So if people want to follow you or know more about you, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook just as my regular name, and on social media such as Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, I'm at the word from_Washington.
All right, well, thank you so much. And Snacks, we will talk to you later. Bye, Snacks. Hey, Snack. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Snack Size. I also want to let you know that this podcast is now on iHeartRadio. Download the iHeartRadio app and follow Snack Size the podcast so you don't miss out on any of my content exclusive to iHeartRadio. Also, check out my new website, www.snacksizepodcast.com, where you can listen to all your favorite episodes and more. Until next time, go be fabulous.